everyone, it's Sevy. An upcoming highlight of this patch will be the rerun banner of the Electro Archon herself, the Raiden Shogun. When Raiden first came out, she was one of the most anticipated characters. Initially, there was a lot of controversy around her kit and her power level, but now that the dust has settled and her banner is on its way back, I'd like to take a moment to briefly discuss what makes Raiden such a great unit and why I think she's worth pulling for. We'll go over what Raiden can add to your team, how friendly she is to free-to-play, new, or casual players, and how relevant she may be in the future of the game. Taking all these into consideration, I hope it will give you a better understanding of Raiden's worth. Let's begin. First, let's do some important reality checks and reminders about Raiden. She's not a magical solution for all your energy needs. She restores a portion of your energy, not all of it. And as such, you still need to have sufficient ER stats on your team. She can make your game experience more forgiving if you are having trouble getting good artifacts to meet the standard ER recommendations for your units. Next, Raiden does not need C2 to be good, nor does she need C2 to deal good damage. While she gets a huge damage increase with C2, approximately 40 to 50%, which is incredible for an early constellation, she nevertheless performs great as a support and good as a DPS at C0. The fact that she does not need any constellations to address or cover up fundamental issues with her kit just shows how solid she already is at C0. And lastly, though you've probably heard this so many times, it would be remiss not to mention that her burst attacks cannot proc Beidou or Electro Traveler's bursts. This was a huge debacle at the time of her release, which was understandable since it seemed like a reasonable expectation. But now that we're fully aware of this incompatibility, you have a good idea of what you're getting. If that is a major deal breaker for you, then don't pull her. Now that we've cleared those up, let's talk about what Raiden can actually do. What can you expect if you pull her? Raiden offers a top-notch battery support kit that's very easy to use. For one, her skill is just a fire and forget thing. Once it's out, it can periodically deal electro damage, which you can also use to trigger electro-related reactions, and it buffs your team's burst damage. Additionally, it's also providing energy particles, and even if it's not exactly guaranteed since each attack only has a 50% chance of generating a particle, this is nonetheless a continuous, convenient source of energy. And you can pretty much expect a 100% guaranteed uptime since its duration is 25 seconds, while the casting cooldown is only 10 seconds. Basically, with a skill cast, you get burst damage buff, energy generation, and electro damage on the side all in one. And then her burst attacks regenerate energy as well. An average Raiden build has 200 to 250% ER, which regenerates a flat 20 to 24 energy for your entire team. Energy is a valuable and sometimes underrated aspect of making good teams, and having Raiden to help around with that is always nice. One important thing to note about Raiden is that she requires field time during her burst to fulfill her battery capabilities, which is where almost all of her damage comes from. So a potential concern is just how strong her damage is. If she's at C0, don't expect her to be an extremely strong, record-breaking on-field DPS, but rest assured that she still deals respectable damage during her burst. And remember that she's simultaneously dealing damage while batterying and helping restart your team's rotations. The closest similarity I can think of is Venti, whose burst also deals constant damage and refunds a unit's energy when his burst is infused with the element of that unit's element. This only refunds a flat 15 energy though, and it's element specific, not as close to Raiden's universal energy generation. Granted, if you really want her to do crazier damage, C2 is a highly coveted constellation because it skyrockets her damage by about 40 to 50%, which is a huge jump for an early constellation, and it turns her into one of the best DPSs in the game. This brings Raiden hypercarry teams to greater heights and makes her feel closer to true Archon status. So if that's how much you simp for Raiden, stopping at C2 or C3 is enough to feel all of that power. But again, not necessary for her to do well what she's meant to in the first place with C0. Damage numbers and team utilities are good and all, but what it feels like to use a character is also important. I believe Raiden is one of the characters that is easy to learn how to play, and the result feels good. I think it comes down to solid gameplay design. There's nothing clunky about her gameplay that you need to work around. You don't need to be overly concerned about things like animation cancelling and energy funneling to unlock a huge chunk of her potential. Her burst combos are also easy to learn and execute. And I think a large part of this good feeling is that she's near uninterruptible when doing her burst, thanks to an increased resistance to interruption. She's not invincible, as you still need to be wary of her HP, but when she's doing her combos, she seems unstoppable, making you feel powerful when using her, especially for more casual players that wouldn't want to overthink complicated game mechanics. You might also wonder if you have the team for Raiden. Her role is technically to battery and provide on-field DPS, which is helpful for many teams that aren't too conscious of the meta. Of course, there are popular teams that have become mainstream recommendations. Raiden National, consisting of her Xingqiu, Bennett, and Xiangling. Raiden Hypercarry team with Sarah, Bennett, and Kazuha, and now a variation of that with Yae. Sunfire Overvape with Xingqiu, Bennett, and Jean. And Eula Raiden core team that's an alternative for the Eula official combo. If you aren't able to utilize some of these teams yet because you lack certain characters, then that's perfectly fine as well. Having Raiden can be treated as a long-term investment, and as you unlock characters and constellations down the road, Raiden will find a place in more and more teams. For those who already got Raiden during her first banner but not her weapon, you may be wondering whether aiming for her signature weapon is more worth it than her constellations. In terms of the power spike they give Raiden, targeting her C2 and C3 offers a bigger boost than getting Engulfing Lightning. And if you love Raiden that much, then even getting C1 this rerun is one step closer to getting her C2 in the future. So if you do get her, how easy is it to build her, especially if you're free to play? For completely new players, let's get this clear. You need to be far enough into the game to access Inazuma and Seirai Island in order to ascend her. So if you're still not there, how fast you speedrun just to ascend her is up to your pace. But aside from that, she's a very free-to-play worthy unit, and if you especially don't have that many characters with high constellations yet, Raiden is a great upgrade to your account. Also, you already have access to one of her best weapons, the catch. The only price to pay is your time and sanity, since you need to fish for it. But if you're a free-to-play or dolphin player with no 5-star options, it's the only weapon you'll need. And if you have friends who can lend you their fishing spots, then you can get it much faster. The only other unit fighting over it is Xiangling, in which case you can switch between them or give either one another polearm. Then the only set you'll need to invest in is a 4-piece emblem, which can take a while to complete a good set. But thankfully, farming the Shimenawa emblem domain is such good value, since a lot of units like the 2-piece Shimenawa set and many other burst focus units have the 4-piece emblem as a best in slot. Basically, artifact farming for her is an efficient use of resin. When it comes to her future relevance, in my opinion, the fact that Raiden can fulfill a bunch of support utilities with nice damage potential on top of that means she will age well. In the context of Spiral Abyss, single boss enemies such as the Mechanical Array or Magukenki are scarce in giving energy. They don't drop a lot of energy particles or orbs. You can say that Hoyoverse skews the Abyss towards current banner characters, but boss enemies like them will surely be recurring. But more than Spiral Abyss, there are simply a significant number of characters that already have high burst costs. This has been the trend for a while, and if this trend continues, as it likely will, good batteries may become more and more in demand. If that's the case, Raiden will fit in more new teams and continue to complement old and current characters alike. Ultimately, Raiden's unique energy recharging playstyle and mechanic doesn't look like it will be replaced anytime soon. Is Raiden a must-pull? Despite all these utilities she has, she definitely isn't a must-pull. Although she makes gameplay and rotations feel easier, there are plenty of available team comps that don't require her. And with the frequency of rerun banners, there's no sense of utmost urgency to pull her right now. But do I think Raiden is a worthy pull? Yes. And on top of all those meta-related points, she's just a beautiful character. Not only will getting her mean you have an Archon on your account, but you get to see her stunning character model with that iconic burst animation as well. Her English VA and Yatko is phenomenal, and she, alongside all the other Raiden VAs, really put amazing work into Raiden's newest story quest. Raiden has had more than her fair share of ups, downs, backlash, and flack from both the Genshin community and the rest of Teyvat, but months after her release, she's shown her value well enough. If you're pulling for her, I wish you all the best. That's going to be all for this video, everyone. Let me know down below if you plan on pulling for her or what you'd like to tell Raiden wanters. If you enjoyed this video or if it helped you out, don't forget to leave a like, consider subscribing to my channel for more Genshin Impact guides and content, and I will see you all soon. Take care!